Artificial intelligence or AI has permeated every industry, and healthcare is no exception. Healthcare has been an industry with large amounts of data, complex activities, and processes on a day to day basis. AI is ideally suited for this sort of environment. My name is Vaikunthan Rajratnam, and I'm a hand surgeon, a medical educator, and an instructional designer. Today, I will share with you my thoughts, my take, and my experience in the use of AI in my practice. It is important to note that I do not have any knowledge or skills in coding or in algorithm design or in computer skills in terms of writing of programs. I am a healthcare professional in clinical practice who uses AI on a daily basis. And I'm here to share with you my experience and my take on how AI is impacting my practice and in how it could impact your practice. Healthcare, with its large amount of data that is produced, is ideally suited for the integration of artificial intelligence into its daily activities and processes. However, in spite of all the various advantages of AI, there have been a lot of challenges and barriers to its integration. There are fears that AI would replace your job. I don't think AI is going to replace the job, but somebody with AI competencies in its application may do. So, what is artificial intelligence? Basically, it's a machine that simulates human intelligence. So, generative AI is basically a machine that is able to generate responses based on various prompts using a large language model based on qualitative data sets. Now, ChatGPT, which is very popular, is a generative AI, but the GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. What it does is it takes your prompts and it transforms to a response based on the large data set of qualitative data, at the moment purely textual in nature, and the response is very much like human language. And that is what generative AI does. There's a tremendous interest in research pertaining to artificial intelligence. And you can see in the last 10 years, the exponential growth of publications and research pertaining to AI. AI is a tsunami in terms of every aspect of our lives, from education to healthcare to finance. And therefore, it is important for everyone, every professional, to be aware of what AI. Some of the challenges that are faced with AI is being the quality of the data that is being used to generate the responses. So, what is the quality and the type of data, which seems to be a little opaque and lacking transparency. And this has certain amount of biasness. The skills to be able to interpret, to provide the algorithms to give the responses are also not very transparent. One of the big challenges of this is actually the problems with ethics and governance, as this is a new technology that is rapidly progressing, and regulatory bodies do not have the competency nor the resources to be able to provide frameworks that can be enforceable. The greatest focus area has been in healthcare, has been in the service management, in terms of personalized and predictive medicine, decision support system, and in remotely monitoring and enabling patients with large data sets. So, what are the areas in healthcare where AI is going to play a significant role, which is already being used currently? One is operational efficiencies. Is healthcare is very, very complicated in terms of activities and processes, and AI can facilitate and rapidly improve the processes. In terms of predictive function, it is an evidence and database approach towards prediction within the healthcare sector. The supply chain management is another big area in which AI can help with just-in-time supplies. And in terms of financing of healthcare, medical fraud detection can be highly empowered with the use of AI and cross-platform data sharing. The integration of various care processes across multiple providers is another area in which AI can improve the efficiency. And obviously, in the administrative aspects of uh, delivering care, AI has a tremendous role to make it a hassle-free experience and provide just-in-time support for healthcare stakeholders. Patient engagement, again, is a great area to provide bespoke and specialized, all universally accessible and anytime access to such specialized information with the use of AI chatbots. In terms of education and workplace development, skills development, AI again can play a tremendous role. And all these is going to be reflected in terms of cost efficiency. One of the big areas in which AI is going to make a tremendous effect is in predictive and personalized precision medicine. And here, early disease detection with the use of large data sets, including genomes, is going to make a tremendous difference in personalized preventive and promotive healthcare. The use of risk stratification using large data sets with AI is going to help in preventive and promotive health treatment. And in terms of epidemics, we can predict epidemics using these large data sets. The predictive nature can help in the allocation of resources and in the maintenance of acute care and crucial care in specialized situations like an epidemic. The mental health area and chronic disease management, AI is going to play a significant role in making sure patients remain in a well state and optimized health with minimal resources using the abilities of AI. From the perspective of the patient, I think AI is going to help with the management of large data sets through remote monitoring, real-time monitoring, and these anonymized data sets can be used for public health policy making, but also more through a personalized and predictive type of advice for patients. And these can be integrated into the larger data sets of the hospital and the country as a whole to help for decision in policy and promotive and preventive healthcare. The management of chronic conditions can be facilitated by AI with the use of various types of nudging and prompts to help patients live better lifestyles and helping them with the maintenance of good health through strategies that have already been pre-approved by healthcare professionals. However, all this comes with a caveat that they have to be ethical and in keeping with data protection. And these are all can be incorporated into the AI systems. One of the most exciting areas in AI is going to help as a clinician is in clinical decision support system. There's ample evidence that generative AI has been shown to have a positive effect in helping individual physicians to diagnose and manage their patients, providing an evidence-based approach. And this is where the specialized and unbiased data sets can be used as a repository for AI to provide that generative responses that are specific and precise for that patient based on the prompts. And these support tools are going to make a significant difference. And there have been studies that have shown where patients who have lacked diagnosis for a long period of time haven't been given a diagnosis which and treated uh, promptly with the use of generative AI. It can also help patients predict outcomes and motivate patients to be taking a more active role in preventative and promotive strategy. The use of these forms of artificial intelligence chatbot can help multidisciplinary team to approach the problem and work as a team to help patients reach the level of optimal care. However, I think again we must reinforce the data protection and the ethical framework through which these AI systems have to be regulated. And here is where we require the collaboration between the designers and developers of AI systems with clinicians. Some of the biggest challenges for the adoption of AI is trust. The distrust by the significant stakeholders in healthcare is that the data is not secure, the data is biased. And this is where the designers and developers of AI systems must ensure transparency in the data set, the lack of biasness or strategies and mitigation steps taken to overcome bias. And the readiness for change, I think, would be enforced upon clinicians as we move forward. And the expertise is required for clinicians on how to use ethically and efficiently AI systems. This is a required prerequisite skill set for all healthcare professionals. I think once the skill sets are being provided through any form of education system or ongoing competency acquisition programs within the practice, I think buy-in from the clinicians would not be a problem. The regulatory framework needs to be developed together with not just the clinicians, but with the designers and developers and other stakeholders in healthcare, especially finances and the policy and regulatory body. The evaluation of the effectiveness of these technology in helping patient outcome is important. And this is where future research has to take an active part in designing research that would provide us with that kind of evidence that this technology is ensuring better outcome, avoiding harm and injuries to patients. There have been some frameworks that has been recommended for how governance should be uh, addressed for artificial intelligence in healthcare, basically in terms of the transparency and the fairness, trustworthiness, and accountability. We produce a chapter on the ethical guidelines for technology in medical equipment engineering and manufacturing, shown here in the reference. Clinicians to be engaged and involved in the design and development of healthcare AI platforms. We don't need to know the subject matter experts of algorithm and coding. However, we can provide the user perspectives, and this has been recommended as important framework to provide the clinical validation, the clinical requirements, so that the designers and developers work together with the clinician in producing AI platforms and systems that are safe, that are ethical, that protects patients and their data and improve their healthcare. Let's go into a little bit more detail on ChatGPT, popular and common generative AI that is being used. I'll confine my observations and comments based on ChatGPT 4 and not 3.5. So ChatGPT became very popular early this 2023, and it's basically an understanding language using natural language. Prior to this, any form of searching of large database required the search strategies, Boolean search terms, of which requiring computer language and coding. However, with the natural language processing, with this generative AI, it allowed for simple ways in which we could use natural language to communicate or to interact and engage with AI systems. The generation of text by the system, based on the large language model in its data set, produced human-like responses that made it easy for the understanding and the application of the response among the users. The conversational nature of the system allowed for a more personalized assistant to help in the use of AI in the practice. The applications of AI is tremendous, as I mentioned earlier, in healthcare. And it's important to realize that however well it responds through this language, it is not human. It is a machine. It has no sentient competencies, and it just acts as a human. As with any interaction, we, the recipients of the responses, have to ensure we understand its limitation. So how does ChatGPT work? So when I use the word "don't cry" and leave a blank, what are the response that you will say? Some of you say "don't cry" or "I don't cry for me, Argentina." But when I add the third word "don't cry over," immediately you know it's "don't cry over spilt milk." That is the predictive nature of generative AI. So we are all familiar with predictive texting. That's part of AI. So it is ability to read the text through machine language understanding, and from that it interprets those uh, data, and it processes them against the predictiveness of what should come before and after that based on the large language model that it has been fed with. There is a process of training and learning that occurs, but with this network learning, neural networks, it can then learn by itself. And the generation of the response is in a human like response language that makes it easier for us to understand. There are no personal knowledge or opinions within the system. It's important to understand that it's what you put in and what you get out of it, depending on your prompts. And it is an important way in which we can personalize our learning from that data. So if the data that is put in is unbiased, is validated, and it is true, then the responses are going to be so. The ability to be versatile in the it is nature of which it can be asked to respond is quite unique in the generative AI. But remember the limitation that it is not perfect, and that is where you, the person who's going to engage the AI, being the subject matter expert, can validate the response. And it is therefore dangerous if you attempt to engage with this AI with no prior knowledge and the inability to discern between truth and fake and facts and false news, and therefore it is important on how we validate the response. So the way the generative AI, especially ChatGPT, works is in a very conversational style. So the conversational style is you put in a prompt. That's the word we use, prompt. You prompt it, and then it gives you a response. It terminates that engagement with a response. So it's a prompt and response. But sometimes you're not happy with the response. You keep going back. And this is a cycle of prompt response cycle. The quality of the response that you get from the generative AI is directly dependent on the quality of your prompt and the model's understanding of that prompt. So it is important to ensure that you make sure your prompt has got all the features of a good prompt, which we shall explore in the next section. So, what are the components of a good prompt? So, the crafting of a good prompt is a basic skill set that all healthcare professionals, and I would say all learners today, will require. It needs to be clear and specific. It is not a very scientific way of a method, but it's a bit of trial and error. As you keep using the system, you and the system becomes clever and becomes more efficient in responding to your prompts. So the specific, and you can specify the type of response that you want. So you must be clear in your mind what is it that you're asking the generative AI, what context, what is the type of response you want, and see what you get. If the response is not to your satisfaction, you can then revise the prompt, and the cycle goes on. This iterative process goes on and on till you have a satisfactory response. So we come to this process of creating efficient and good prompts for generative AI. We call this prompt engineering. This is one of the new skill sets that is becoming very popular among all in all industry, and people are looking, employers are looking for prompt engineers. And I think in healthcare, I coined the term healthcare promptologist. That everybody needs to understand basic principles of prompting. So, first of all, you must define the objective. What is the purpose of the information that you are looking for? Be clear and precise in your prompt generation. Consider in what context are you asking the generative AI to provide the response. So, is it in the undergraduate level? Is it in a clinical setting? Is it in a research setting? And you must give it the type of tone and style for it to respond. So, if you are helping to write an academic paper, you want the response to be very academic and for the purposes of an academic journal. Whereas if you are writing more as a guide for a patient, then you would want it to be written in a more simplistic language, understandable for that of an average high school individual. And the questions has to be direct. And you can even ask the generative AI to reflect on its answer and improve on its outcome so that the response that you get is better. And this can be designed within the prompt. We will go through some of them later. And you must ensure there's avoid bias and leading questions. So it's just like in any other qualitative interaction, we can provide leading questions that are not ideal and you don't get proper response. And you need to test and refine the response. Keep going back. And most of all, you must be careful when you generate prompts that you must understand that the data that is going into the system is in a public domain. So any form of identifiable data should not be incorporated. Here we see a very classical comparison between good prompts and bad prompts, and specifically designed for healthcare professionals. And this is something that you learn as you use the system more and more. And you must ensure all that we mentioned in prompt engineering, the features are included in your prompt. So it takes time and effort to craft a well designed prompt to get optimal response. What do we do with the response? This is the most important aspect of our engagement with AI. Response validation. We must first review what the response. Does it meet your requirement? Does it make sense? Is it congruent to your knowledge because you are a subject matter expert? But realize that this data is not current. It is at the moment based on 2021. So there's no real time data. So you need to therefore validate the response to that of real time data. And that is where we use the standard validation for evidence synthesis in academic practice. So we need to take that response, look at it, understand it, and pick the key components and validate that through a literature review. So that is the total process by which we interact with the generative AI. We do a relevance check, accuracy confirmation, consistency, and sensitivity review, and then you refine for future prompting. So we come to what are chatbots. So ChatGPT is a chatbot. So by definition, it's an AI-driven software that uses algorithms to provide responses in a simulated conversational fashion. It uses text and voice, and I think the future versions would include images. And the whole framework is designed around natural language processing and therefore making it easy for us to interact with that without having to know coding or special terminology. And the natural language process allows for efficient means of communication. And it is based on certain sets of rules through which the machine learning occurs, and the algorithms that are used based on coding can adapt and improve over time. And you will find when you create your own chatbots that over time and usage, it becomes more and more efficient and proficient. So, what is the role of chatbots in healthcare? And their tremendous roles from patient education to clinical decision support system, remote monitoring, patient triage. But amongst all this, we must keep in mind that the patient confidentiality and compliance and data compliance must be met at all times. It is very easy to write a prompt even though no identifiable data is put in directly, but indirectly it allows for identification. And this is where, as healthcare professionals, we have to be careful. Here's an example of a chatbot that I have created for leprosy as part of a research project that I'm collaborating with someone. Here we use ChatGPT 4.0 as the back-end AI engine using API as an interface with a easy platform, and this took less than half a day to be produced. The most important part is to find unbiased, validated clinical information to act as the data set, the large data set from which conversational support can be provided. This is currently being used among healthcare professionals in the control program for leprosy in Malaysia, and it's a open access chatbot. Here shows some of the users. However, one of the problems with this was the bias. So most of the generative AI are Anglo-centric. In other words, they are English-based text. The majority of healthcare professionals in Malaysia tended to use Bahasa Malaysia, the local language, and so therefore contextual understanding was another concept that the negative aspects of generative AI. And there are limitations in translation, and this bias needs to be overcome. And to overcome this, we then created a translated version of the data set from the original validated knowledge base, and then this was used and shown to be effective for to provide support in the local language. So, in terms of healthcare education, I think AI is going to play a significant role in terms of creating personalized learning. As we move away from teacher centric learning to student centric learning, the learner centric type of learning process is where learning is going to occur. So, the challenges in healthcare education is learner centric learning, adult learners, workplace learning, and with time constraints. So, the personalized learning environment uh, can be enhanced with AI. Content creation for educators can be a challenge, and AI can help us in content creation. With student engagement, with the use of chatbot, with interactive and personalized teaching can occur. In assessment and feedback, AI can play a tremendous role, and we shall see some examples on how AI help create assessment rubrics, questions, and even simulation with the use of AI. Making them accessible is very important in the democratization of healthcare education, that easy access, and this is very important. It allows for collaboration and communication using AI with other collaborators in education. In personalized learning, which is what as we move forward in education is occurring, is learner-centric design of learning materials. Adapting the learner content to the learner's needs is one of the big aspects where AI can help. It allows for immediate feedback through chatbots based on the patient, based on the patient, the student's response. It allows for interactive learning environments like simulation, patient simulation for history taking. It allows for data-driven insights to provide personalized support for learners. The AI's platforms will allow for accessibility and inclusivity to ensure that all type of learners are catered for. And it also can allow for peer-to-peer teaching to occur. And this is an important aspect in work-based teaching and learning. And it can be incorporated, as you can see, that EV chatbots can be embedded within the learning management system that exists within the healthcare profession. It allows for continuous learning to occur, and you can even design your own chatbot AI-based system with the material for you to continuously learn on a particular matter, a subject matter. The ethical and privacy concerns cannot be overemphasized again, and the learning can be aligned towards the needs of the institution and country. So here is an example of how I interacted with ChatGPT using a prompt that asked ChatGPT to act like a virtual patient, providing me with symptoms and history so that to improve clinical skills in history taking. And it provided this. These were previously available in patient simulation models, which were quite expensive, whereas this is relatively inexpensive to produce a personalized interaction between a student and a simulated patient using AI. This can easily be created, and the interaction can be emailed to the teacher, to the educator, who can then asynchronously assess whether learning has occurred. And we can see therefore the efficiency that it produces, where you don't need to sit in front of the patient and the student while they're taking the history. But we can see the thought process, but not the communication skill. That's in a different situation altogether. And here you can see the details of the interaction. And this is me, a surgeon trying to take a history of, I think, some jaundice and gallbladder disease. And here is how, in education, it can help faculty members to design, develop learning programs, curriculum. So here is the prompt. The prompts are in red, and I have given it the context of why I'm asking. That's in the red part. The response that I'm demanding from or I'm expecting from the AI is in highlighted in yellow. So this is a well-crafted prompt, and that is the outcome that you get. You get learning outcomes, you get lesson session plans, you get demonstration, everything. Initially, it gave me a 2-week program for organomegaly examination, and then I re-prompted it to a 2-hour session tutorial, and this is what it has produced. Pretty significant amount of work has been done. We could have done this ourselves, but it has taken a lot of time and effort. And here, generative AI has produced it. We need to tweak this in relation to the context to what our situation is, and we are ready to go. The next stage is, as in any learning programs, we have a curriculum, and then we need an assessment. And here is the assessment. I've asked it to create an assessment and to provide a rubric for the assessment. And true enough, the prompt produces the assessment and the scoring guidelines. We can adjust this as per needs of our institution. And most of our institution would require it in a tabular format. We can even ask it to present it in a tabular format without having to waste time on creating. Many of our communication and lectures and teaching, we require images as part of multimedia platform or framework for learning. And for non-clinical pictures, uh, generative AI can help us create our own images. In this platform called Night X Cafe, I am using a prompt to create this image. I needed a group of students, Asian students working together, and so I prompted it, and I got this image which doesn't contravene any data protection frameworks and regulation. and this can be downloaded and used as image in your videos are an important resource in healthcare and in any education. Educational and instructional videos are a gold mine to help in learning and education that is on demand, especially if it's made available online. So we analyzed my hand surgery education YouTube channel with currently more than 2.2 million views and over 12,500 subscribers, and we published this. And the outcome from this is your educational videos have to be concise, mobile compatible, optimized for social media, and can enhance for blended learning to occur. Remember, the average view time was 103 seconds. So creating educational videos have to be evidence-based in the concept known as micro-learning, small chunks at a time. And that's how the new generation of learners learn, the TikTok framework. So how do we use AI for video production? So we first have our learning program and our learning outcomes. Once we have that clear, the learning program and the learning outcomes, we can use this as a prompt, as a resource database to our generative AI ChatGPT, load it up, and then prompt it to create a video narration. If you create a script, it will provide you various scenes, the background, the music, and stuff like that, which you don't want. You just want the narration. So you instruct it pure narration. And then when you get that narration, you export it out, put it into a Word document, tidy it up, personalize it, and then you use an AI video generator at various platforms. You import that script, that narration, and then use your personalized media. If you have patient-specific media, clinical photographs, you can then upload that into that platform, and then you can even choose a voice over type. Most of these AI platforms provides you with a narrative voice. It can be British English accent, US English accent, some even do Singapore English, Singlish accents, and that gives you the authenticity. But I think as a healthcare professional, it is good to use your own voice with that script to give it that authenticity. Do not look for perfection in your audio file. Keep it natural, keep it real, and that is evidence show is the authenticity improves learning. And then you produce it, and you can produce a reasonable quality instructional video in 1/10 the time that it takes to produce in our normal format. Remember, 1 minute of good quality video requires 1 hour of production time. So here are examples where, again, used from our same example earlier on, to write a script for the introduction of anatomy in organomegaly. So the context was given in the first half of the prompt. In the second half of the prompt, I've asked it to provide me a response in a 90-second video script, and that's the script that has been produced. So we took that script and we then put it into AI video creator, and this is the video that we got.
Welcome to the medical student
Creative,
module on organomegaly. In the next few moments, we will embark on a fascinating journey into the human body, exploring the intricate anatomy. Welcome to the
So, what about assessment and feedback? And here's where AI can help us provide automatic grading based on what we give it. It can provide personalized feedback with the use of chat bots, and it can provide real-time support in terms of the uh, learner asynchronously through the use of AI based on the chatbot. It can provide data-driven insight for us to provide remedial teaching if need be, and to allow for the more advanced student to progress as and how he prefers. It allows for better interaction. Again, once again, we must emphasize on the ethical use of AI for this and the biasness that is inherent within the system. So here is a question that we have asked the generative AI on the antibiotics for leprosy treatment, and it has provided an answer which is pretty good from my understanding of leprosy. So as subject matter, I know a little bit about leprosy. I'm quite happy with the response for this. This is for undergraduate students. So I have then prompted the Chat GPT to provide me the question based on this question and answer to provide a rubrics. And here is the rubrics, and the pass mark has already been put there, the below 50 points. We don't like to use the word pass and fail. This is a formative assessment, so it says needs improvement. And here I have given it a sample answer of a student who has provided this type of qualitative answering and took that in green, and then I have asked it to give me a response based on this green answer. This is the whole prompt. So the context is provided and the response provided to grade this answer. And it's come up with a grade needs improvement. It's pretty, I agree with that grade. Looking at the answer, is not a perfect answer. Now we move on to AI tools for research. Now, research can be a very labor-intensive process, and AI has got a tremendous role to play in terms of literature research, in terms of the use for keyword generation, and even for the academic writing. So some of the various platforms out there, most of them are using ChatGPT 4 in the back end to do the analysis. So let's look at that. Here I have used ChatGPT to ask it to design and craft a prompt because I'm too lazy to do that. And I've asked ChatGPT, but I've given it my prompt that I wanted to talk about research topic, and I'm quite interested in the use of dynamic splints to manage post-stroke spasticity. So that's something that's I'm interested in. So I gave it that idea, but I asked it to write a good prompt, and it's come up with a reasonably good prompt based on the keywords of my research. And then when I put that prompt that was generated by ChatGPT into ChatGPT, this is the 5 types of studies, research that ideas that I've got. Pretty impressive. You can stop the video and look at that. So we can then take the key research question and put it into this platform called illicit.org. It is constantly evolving. Some of them are changing on a monthly basis, so do the landing page may be different. And here is another type of platform that I use quite often, and this is typeset.io. So when you put in, so here was a question that I was working on a paper on AI in healthcare. That was the question you can see in the top mark there. And it had gone and looked up the papers, and it provided the insight from the top 5 papers. This took less than 5 minutes. And then it gave me the various detailed papers there were 10 papers in this, and I can then purposefully sample them, take out the papers that I want to go in to provide a narrative synthesis. It comes with a Copilot. The Copilot is quite different from the Microsoft Copilot. This is Typeset.io's Copilot, which is using ChatGPT-4 for you to interrogate these various papers to ask for specific answers. And here are some of my resources that are available for you to use to look at how AI can be used in education, healthcare, and research. I hope you found this